Yesterday, I took to Twitter, or X, I'm sorry, I'm still not used to calling it X, and released a poll about the woke era. Pride Month has been very quiet to me in relations to previous years. And so it made me want to ask, is the woke era, is it dead? Is it dying? Is it taking a vacation, waiting on the next George Floyd? And so far, it seems like 46% of the people think it's dying. 46% of the people think it's just waiting for its next Messiah. Only 8% of the people think it's dead. I'm in the latter group. I think it's just waiting for its next Messiah. We're going to have that discussion today with a bunch of our contributors. We've invited Wilfred Reilly to participate as well. Is the woke era, is it dead? Is it dying? Or is it just waiting for the next George Floyd? We'll discuss that today. Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Thursday. Thanks for joining me. Happy day, what is it, June 20th? Happy June 20th. Hope you're enjoying it. We got a great show planned for you today. Make sure you're able to check out this extra Fearless content, though, as well. Make sure you're a Blaze TV subscriber. Go to blazetv.com/fearless. Use the promo code fearless, and you can save $20 on your yearly subscription to Blaze TV. Today's dynamic episode is brought to you by our good friends at Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com, use my promo code fearless, and with your subscription, you can claim $100 off plus free smoked brats for a year while supporting veterans this Independence Day. It's time to revolt and claim your independence from the grocery store meat aisle. Thank you, Good Ranchers, for allowing me to do what we're going to do today. Have another discussion that most people will not have, that I think is appropriate. We're heading towards the end of Pride Month, and man, Pride Month feels a lot different than previous years. Maybe it's because, I'm in a temporary apartment and I've removed all the televisions from my house. I only consume the outside world through my laptop right now. I'm not watching TV, but I just don't feel flooded with over-the-top Pride messaging. And then I saw something very interesting that warmed my heart on social media. Derek Wolfe, former defensive tackle, played with the Denver Broncos, I believe, on that Peyton Manning Super Bowl winning team, played with the Baltimore Ravens towards the end of his career. Derek probably been out of the NFL 2 or 3 years now, but he went on the Hodge Twins podcast. The Hodge Twins, the two big light-skinned brothers that crack a lot of jokes, play the role of good old boys. They're hardcore America First guys. They're funny as heck. And I'm watching Derek Wolfe, this former NFL defensive tackle, on their podcast, and I'm jealous and I'm upset. Like, oh my God, how come he's not saying this on my show? But beyond that, he said some things for a white guy that I'm just like, holy cow. White guys just haven't talked this way ever. And so is the woke movement over? Are white guys now free to say whatever it is they want? Let's play the clip of Derek Wolfe talking with the Hodge Twins.
So the NFL, with that whole kneeling shit, and the BLM, communist bullshit, Marxism farce that was going on there, the whole kneeling thing made them lose all this money.
Right.
People who are like patriots and shit are like, I'm not watching it.
Yeah.
So what do? They go woke.
Right.
Completely woke. During that George Floyd shit, they made us sit in an auditorium, and the victimization from guys, I mean, these guys were telling all their stories about how scared of the cops they were. I'm like, bro.
How woke was the locker rooms?
It got bad in Baltimore. It got real bad.
That's a woke ass city.
It was so woke. The problem is that the guys that are actually like on free thinkers and on the right, they're afraid to say anything because they're scared. But me, I don't give a f you. I don't
Right.
care. I'm going to say what I believe, and I'm going to be who I am. I'm not going to hide and let you just talk shit.
So TJ Moe, I believe, sent that clip to me. And TJ Moe and I have been having this discussion for about a month. TJ hardcore believes woke is dead. TJ made an analogy to me this week. He's like, hey, look, man, woke is like 7-Eleven. Amazon basically ran 7-Eleven out of business. Amazon is the convenience store. And that 7-Eleven is now just a gas station. And it's dead, and it's just waiting to, like Red Lobster, closed all them stores, and other Blockbuster. Yeah, it's just like Blockbuster. It's over. Netflix killed Blockbuster, Amazon Prime killed Blockbuster, and Elon Musk basically has killed woke. His acquisition of X and moving it from Twitter to X has killed woke. TJ and I have been having this argument for at least a month, it feels like. I'm not there. I think it's in hiding, waiting for its next Messiah, waiting for its next George Floyd, waiting for something. And again, maybe they'll have Jussie Smollett, another alphabet mafia soldier, create some hate crime. It's all orchestrated, and they'll create something. But I have to admit, things are changing. People are far more outspoken than they used to be, and far more fearless than they used to be. And I'm going to cite you another couple of examples. Here's a clip of Dana White, the UFC founder. You guys know who Dana White is. And so a few years ago, Dana White basically said, hey, keep your religious faith to yourself. And then he's pivoted now to, hey, we're not going to stop our guys from saying whatever they want about their faith or anything. Dana White, although I don't think he's a believer, I think he's like a lot of people that are starting to realize, like, hey, Christian culture is superior to secular culture. Dana White, I think, is going through the same transformation as Bill Maher is going through, that we've seen. And this isn't totally analogous to Tucker Carlson, but we've seen Tucker Carlson over the past 5 years start leaning into his faith and start understanding that we're in a battle of good versus evil, and the removal of our Christian values don't serve us. But let's watch this pivot of Dana White.
Last question. Of course, you weren't in Florida. Bit of a controversial moment with Yo Romero, and I know this is a very positive thing. I'm not trying to rain on that parade. Quite frankly, I don't feel like it was as controversial as some may think, but I just wanted to get your take on what happened.
No, it wasn't controversial at all, but the reality is this. You just won the biggest fight of your career, America doesn't want to hear your thoughts on Jesus, and, keep that stuff at home. Religion, politics, all that stuff. When you're out there fighting and you're being interviewed, they want to hear about the fight. It's awesome that you love Jesus. Love Jesus all you want. Just don't have to do it publicly.
To Bryce Mitchell bringing his Bible into the cage and saying freedom, like what was your reaction when you saw that?
I got no reaction. You know how I am here. Whatever you're into, man, there's no muzzles here. There's no, whoever you are, whatever you believe, whatever you think. We've heard it all, seen it all, and we think we have. Who knows what's next? But, this is one of those places where you say what you feel and you say what you want, and it's all good with me.
I think that's important. There's a pivot going on. There is a true awakening going on with important people. And Dana White is at the top of this in the sports world. He blazed a path, and he stuck to his values, and he's told corporate media and the mainstream media, you don't like me, I'm good with it, I'm gonna keep it moving. Elon Musk, what he's done with X, and has opened it up for everyone basically to say what they believe, reinstating Alex Jones, reinstating Nick Fuentes. There were all these people on the conservative side and on the evangelical side who were off limits. And people had to start hiding their faith beliefs, had to start hiding their values in order to survive in proper American culture. That does seem to be waning, and people are now becoming more outspoken. I'm going to give you an example just from right here in the sports talk world, things that I think would have never happened 3 years ago, because Black Twitter has a position on what Black talk show hosts should be allowed to say. And to see LaShawn McCoy and Emmanuel Acho keep talking positively about Caitlin Clark and talking honestly about Angel Reese, I think this is fascinating. This would not be allowed. I experienced it. It was allowed, but man, I took a lot of blowback for speaking honestly about Colin Kaepernick. Now guys can do it as it relates to Caitlin Clark, as it relates to Angel Reese. Let's play SOT 7 and 8 back to back. This is another a point perhaps in TJ Moe's favor.
Refs and as the commissioners, they have to do a better job of making the game bigger. Now, nothing's fair, right? I know people's like, well, it's not fair, Shady. It's not, right? The way that when the NFL start getting bigger and bigger and bigger, we start making all this money, the quarterbacks, they had to protect them more than anybody else. Sure. I think the quarterback and the fat D lineman, they are both important. Mm-hmm. Their mamas and dad care about them the same way. Mm-hmm. But to grow this game, the D lineman is not as important as the quarterback. Right, yeah. So when Tom Brady got his knee rolled up on, right, and he's out for the season, and there's no more Tom Brady or the whole year, who loses out? Mm-hmm. The league loses out. So now when you have a Tom Brady or Michael Jordan wearing 22, right, for the Fever, Caitlin, you got to monetize that and make sure that she is protected enough. Now, I'm not saying that like she should just have a cover over her. You can't do nothing to her. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that, yes, it should be certain calls that she should get. It should be certain calls that you shouldn't call on her. And on certain fouls, you need to call it right away to send a message to everybody else in the league. Because if you don't, and this girl gets mad enough where, you know what, I don't have the passion for the game no more. You know what, I don't let us get no more. You know what, I want her to get out of here. Mm-hmm. If she do that, we all...
your actions are starting to speak so loud, we can't hear what you're telling us. Because what you told us, if we go back to March 31st, was simple. You said you think people just take it like we hate each other. And Caitlin Clark and I don't hate each other. I want everybody to understand that. That's what you told us. The problem is your actions vehemently disagree. Because on June 1st, after Kennedy Carter cheap shots Caitlin Clark, you get up and you celebrate the cheap shot of Caitlin Clark. And then you proceed to hug your teammate who just cheap shotted her. Then fast forward 2 days later, you say, I'll take on the bad guy role. Then fast forward 2 weeks later, you wear Joker shoes. Now, for those that don't know, Joker is obviously a notable villain character in one of the most famous stories that we all like to celebrate in Batman. And then yesterday, you get a flagrant foul by hitting Caitlin Clark in the head. It was a basketball play, family, but what I want is simply for Angel and those that are a little bit ignorant to what has been going on to understand that Angel's actions are starting to speak so loud, we cannot hear what is being said.
None of this stuff would be allowed 3 years ago. There would be so much backlash over X/Twitter. Executives would be hiding under their desks. There would be some black woman in PR or somewhere saying, oh my God, someone said something critical about Angel Reese. They must be stopped. I lived this experience. When Colin Kaepernick was a total idiot in the NFL and brought complaints that needed to be taken to city council or state capitals or wherever the politicians were or police headquarters, when he took those actions to the football field, I was like, this is stupid. This is attention whoring. This isn't someone trying to accomplish anything. This is someone trying to throw a little tantrum to draw attention because he doesn't like the way the San Francisco 49ers are handling him as a quarterback. When I took all kinds of heat, and I saw all kinds of people get uncomfortable and fold. I got so upset. Someone told me something about Rob Littell and Black Sports Online called to complain about something I said about Colin Kaepernick. And I was like, and you took the call? Why? This man can barely spell his own name. This is a bona fide idiot. Have you read his website? And you're bringing this up to me? Like I should be taking this. Rob Littell from Black Sports Online has a problem with my opinion on Colin Kaepernick? Crazy. But this is where corporate America was, corporate media America was. And now things are changing. And so that's what's making me ask the question, is the woke era dead, dying, or just waiting? I'm still of the position. It's still just waiting. I put this out there and I asked for tweets and comments from my ex-audience, and I want to share a few of those, some thoughts before we bring in TJ Moe. And TJ Moe is going to walk us through why he thinks the woke era is dead. Let me read these tweets. The left certainly over-indexed. They went all in on their movement, and it butt them. Wow. They'll retreat into the shadows, but not give up. Their strength is their patience. Their weakness is that they overreach like they did this time. Here's another one. The platform of the progressive agenda is to invade territory, annex a portion, and cede the rest. Rinse and repeat. Over time, this movement captures more and more through sheer force, coercion, and fear. That is what I really believe. It's like they've taken over territory, they've installed their mentality all throughout corporate America, and now they're just pulling back and resting. Let me read another one. When the enemy is quiet, it's not because they're dying, it's because they're up to something, and it's not going to be good and make the last round look like child's play. Marxists never go away quietly. I tend to agree with that one. Fads come and go. This one comes with a side of annoying people falsely accusing you of things. It was always doomed to have less longevity than disco. At least people still occasionally have fun listening to disco. Nobody is going to finally remember the woke insanity. He just compared it to Saturday Night Live, John Travolta. Staying alive. The disco era. I like that analogy. Last one. It's completely one. Every institution in this country abides by its dictates. Pretending otherwise is pure cope. Also agree with that one. But I'm going to let TJ Moe come in and argue the other side of this, and then we'll hear from Steve Kim, Wilfred Reilly, Shemeka Michelle. But want to hear your thoughts as well. Hop in the comments. Is the woke era dead, dying, or just hibernating? I want to thank our good friends at Craftco. Since 2007, Folds of Honor has provided life-changing scholarships to the spouses and children of America's fallen or disabled in combat. In 2023, this was extended to include the families of fallen first responders. They've awarded 51,000 scholarships and more than $200 million so far, and the need is still great, but together we can make sure no qualified applicant is turned away. Flying Ace has aligned with Folds of Honor to ensure the children of our American heroes receive the education they deserve. As proud supporters of Folds of Honor, Flying Ace has had the privilege of providing hope for the families of those who protect our freedom. To that end, Flying Ace is proudly sponsoring 4 scholarships awarded quarterly this year. Please, if you can donate today and help them make a great impact, go to flyingacespirits.com or scan the QR code on the screen right now. The link is also in the show notes. When you purchase a bottle of Flying Ace, you will also be donating to Folds of Honor. Make sure you use the promo code Whitlock and get free shipping on every order. That's flyingacespirits.com, promo code Whitlock. TJ Moe, next. Someone cut you off in traffic, you have a plethora of options. As a gay person, you can give them the finger. As a black person, you can curse them out. As a Republican, you can curse them out and give them the finger. You can, but as a Christian, I just got to say, hey, man, this is nothing. Let me move on. Have a great day. And so that's if they've made all these, and Joe Mazzulla is aware of this, we've made all these other things our identity, and that's why there's so much sin in the world, is because all these other identities allow you to do a lot of just crazy, stupid, immoral things. And so I see Joe Mazzulla and I see some of these other people, Harrison Bucker, I see a lot of these other people. I see myself fighting this battle because, trust me, I can think of a lot of immoral things to do most days, but I have to remind myself, man, you call yourself a Christian, you got someone else you're representing. All right, welcome back. As I was just explaining, TJ Moe and I have been in a 2-3 week debate, maybe longer, maybe a month-long debate about the woke era. And is it over? Is it dead, dying, or just in hibernation, waiting for its next George Floyd? TJ's been making a pretty compelling, consistent argument that the woke era is dead. I want TJ to explain his thoughts in full. It'll set up the rest of our conversation with others. TJ, the floor is yours. Why is the woke era dead?
Well, we can start with the election. I mean, from 2016 all the way through 2020, if you uttered the name Donald Trump, then everybody would stop and watch the beating you were about to take from those around you. That doesn't happen anymore. I mean, this is true even in, look, you and I will have private conversations regularly. I'll be on the phone. I get it. This is anecdotal, but we'll be having conversations like we do on this show where we say what we really think, and those around us wouldn't say that same stuff. And for 3 years now, I've been getting looks, and I just probably over the last 3-4 months, I don't get any looks. I can say whatever I want all the time. Nobody says a word. I went down to Lake of the Ozarks. My wife forgot her bag. We had to go get a bunch of, buy stuff for the weekend that we were down there. Walked into Target. I've been boycotting that place for 5+ years. Had to go to Target. It was the only store there. There wasn't a rainbow to be found. So they have abandoned this. Target was ground zero for the trans movement. There was not a rainbow to be seen in the entire store. So I think the part of it it's probably been a 2 to 3 year process. The first part is the Supreme Court. I think when it started with striking down affirmative action in the college admissions, so that is actually rooting it out of the system. That's one of the parts. A second part is conservatives finally went to a boycott, and there are corporations now, Bud Light and Target are the two main ones, that have been brutalized on their P&Ls. And they decided to go woke, and the conservatives said, go for it, but see how that's going to go for you. And so corporations have now backed away from that. I was friends with Michael Sam in college, obviously went to school with him. You know, when he came out as gay, Visa paid him $100,000 to do a commercial. Skittles paid him $50,000 to do a commercial. There was a time where these corporations were throwing money at as much woke stuff as they could. I don't think that time exists anymore, particularly because I would say the Bud Light boycott, the most effective boycott in conservative history, has moved them to a place where it's not profitable. And so these athletes all went all in on being woke because it was profitable. And now it's actually the opposite. So the athletes were looking for sponsorships to be as woke as they could. Now they're not getting those sponsorships because if Target gets behind somebody that's super woke and sponsors that stuff, well, people are going to boycott Target. And so we've moved to a place, I think, societally where it's totally fine to say you're with Trump. And in fact, it's not, you don't even have to do that. Everybody's just backing away from Joe Biden. The Rock went on with Joe Rogan and said, I'm not endorsing Joe Biden. This is crazy. This world we've gotten into is crazy. What I would say as a general rule is this. Being woke is a luxury. And we finally hit an economic time where everybody's like, well, what are we doing here? I can't hardly pay my mortgage. Do you think I care about being woke? And we're hitting recession time in America. So some of it we've rooted out with the Supreme Court. There are 22 states that DEI measures at the state university system have been banned or rolled back. 22 state legislatures have passed these things. And so we're already rooting it out at a state level. And now the people are coming behind it saying, you know, I really don't care what that black woman next to me thinks. I care more about being able to pay my mortgage. And so that, along with the final point, is just Twitter has allowed you to wake up every day and see that you can say whatever you want without a major blowback. And so every day people are getting a little more comfortable.
So I'm going to give you a sports analogy. I think it would work. This analogy is a little dated for someone your age, not for me. But have you ever heard of the Rumble in the Jungle? You know what the Rumble in the Jungle was?
I've heard it, but I don't know. Not familiar with the.
Yeah. The Rumble in the Jungle was a fight between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. And it was in 1974. And Muhammad Ali won the fight with a strategy called rope-a-dope. Have you heard of the rope-a-dope?
I have, yes.
Yeah, so you know that Muhammad Ali laid on the ropes and let George Foreman throw all these punches, and he just wore himself out. And then Muhammad Ali came roaring back and won the fight. The rope, that's my fear. I hope you're right. But my fear is like, this is a rope-a-dope that the left is doing. We're taking all these punches, we're throwing all these punches, and they're just laying back and playing dead. Oh my God, making us a bit overconfident. And I just think they're just laying back, waiting for people to calm back down, waiting for people to, oh man, I gotta go watch football, I gotta smoke my weed, I gotta, whatever. What would Royce's deal about jerking off or whatever?
Yeah, get high, jerk off.
He's just waiting for everybody. Yeah, get high. They're just waiting for everybody to go back to just getting high and jerking off and thinking that they've won, and then they're going to circle back. Because it's no different when a movement ideology gets as strong as the woke deal is. I just don't think you can defeat it in 1, 2, or 3 years. They were just crowned champion in 2020. They just, in 2020, made everybody, hey, Juneteenth, the national holiday, this nice little distinction that happened in Texas, we're going to make it a national holiday, and they were just crowned champion. They just took over everything. They dominated all the institutions. And so they're just sitting back, letting us pretend like we're winning a few rounds. But it's a rope-a-dope strategy. And I think it's going to take more than just a Bud Light and Target boycott, no different than the civil rights movement. It wasn't just the Montgomery bus boycott. There was a sustained effort for years to make people not because what you're talking about is people can now kind of say what they think. Hey, I like Donald Trump, no penalty, blah, blah. But what the civil rights movement did is they made being racist the worst insult, the worst smear on your character on the planet. And everybody lived in fear. I don't want to be called racist. And they start off, and that's what we're going to have to do to unseat them. We're going to have to make being woke, being fake, being inauthentic the worst thing you could call someone. It disqualifies you for leadership positions. It disqualifies you from respect in the culture. And until we do that, I won't believe the woke era is dead. We're getting rope-a-doped is kind of my cynicism.
It's already happening, though. What you just said is, how do we make that being woke is an insult, one of the worst things you could be, being inauthentic. That's what Twitter's done. I mean, if there's one person that's single-handedly responsible for getting rid of what he calls is the woke mind virus, it's Elon Musk. Everybody wakes up. This is for the people on Twitter, and I realize that there's only 500 million people on Twitter in the whole world, so it's not nearly.
The leader of the public square, though, it's powerful. Yeah, it's very powerful. It's the leader of the public square.
That's right. Yes, and so the point is that for years and years, you thought it was so reprehensible to state your thoughts out loud that you better just shut up. And when you don't get to state them out loud, you assume you're the only one who thinks them because, well, it's so reprehensible, you can't say it. And now every day, we were discussing this morning, Isabella Riley Moody just tweets out the gay F word every day just because she can, right? And I wouldn't suggest doing that, but I am telling you that it is a notification to me every morning. You can say whatever you want. You can say the things that make sense, and particularly if you're making a good argument. It's not just us, right? Like she's sort of in her own category of willing to go out and do some things that I wouldn't do, but Trump's winning every poll in every swing state nationally. You know, in 2020, I've never been a politics guy. I've never until Trump came down with his 34 felonies. I had never made a political donation. I finally made one after that. But prior to that, like I never got Trump anything. But in 2020, I got so frustrated that you weren't even allowed. This was after George Floyd. I went and bought a Trump flag and went downtown with my Trump flag just to prove that you can do this. You know, and so that now, if people saw me with the Trump flag, they'd be like, yeah, cool. We agree. Biden's horrible. And this woke stuff's crazy. And so what I think is we've moved into that space. And one other thing that I'll add, Clay Travis was tweeting about this, and I investigated it this morning. Do you know who Mark Cuban sold the Mavs to? It was Trump's biggest donor. Yeah. These people have over their lives.
I forget the woman's name.
Miriam Edelson.
Merelda? Miriam. Miriam Edelson, yeah.
And Sheldon. $500 million, like $550 million they've given to Republicans during their tenure. The Koch family just bought, I think, 10% of the Nets. And so there are actually Republicans moving into these Democratic spaces too. And Mark Cuban, who is only cashing out because he wants to run for president in 2028, sold it to the biggest Trump donors in America. And so we are making moves here. And that's what I'm saying. Like the rope-a-dope thing doesn't land with me because that would suggest we would get tired. Like tired is different than content. You're really making an argument that we would be just content or complacent with where we are. Okay, good. This is good enough. The rope-a-dope is you'd be exhausted. And what I'm saying is when you can do it on a legislative level, I think Republicans have done most things terribly politically, probably for the last 30 years or so. One of the best things they've done is on a local level taken over the politics. And I think Republicans have either 30 or 31 state legislatures right now. And all of them can turn around and say, no, not here. We're not doing this. And we've seen the great sort happening. This happened during 2020. It was one of the best times. You didn't want to live in Minnesota because there were riots. You didn't want to live in New York or California during COVID because you couldn't live your life. And so there's been a great sort in the United States of people moving to these states. And so, look, in Missouri, we don't have these worries. In Tennessee I just saw is maybe the worst state for being LGBTQ friendly. And I'm like, Missouri got a D+. What are we doing? We need to be on the F list. And we're moving to the place where these states have real power. And as the states gain power and you can all say what you want, and federalism exists for exactly this reason, that's how the woke thing fails.
I don't believe in Republicans at all. And so I just don't believe it. And so what I'm saying happened in the 60s was a heart change. And until I see proof of a heart change among a number of Americans, that again, there was this heart change in the 60s of like, man, I just don't want to be called racist. It's horrible. You can't go to heaven if you're racist. They convinced and made that the standard. Until we there's a heart change. It's like, I don't want to be called woke. I don't want people to talk about me in that way. It'll prevent me from getting to heaven. It's an affront to God. Until I see that mentality, it's hard for me to believe because I think Republicans will sell out too. And I'll give you an example. And people won't like this example, but I'll give it to you. When people like DeSantis are passing laws that infringe on free speech because there's a demographic of people that are secular that don't think Jesus Christ is their Lord and Savior, and they must be protected, and you can't criticize them. You can't quote the Bible to them. You can't say Christ is king. That's why I don't believe in Republicans. And so what I'll give MLK and the civil rights movement hat tip to, their sword was they led with religious faith as this is why you got to have this heart change. It's inconsistent with God. And Republicans are reluctant to do that. And part of that has to do with because Trump, by all appearances, has a very inauthentic relationship with God. And so there's not this leading with like, hey, this is inconsistent with God. And that's why this show that you help me do every day is talking about racial idolatry, sexual idolatry, all these identities that people have adopted outside the body of Christ, outside of Christianity. They're all wicked and lead to this type of chaos and dysfunction that we have overtaking America. That's the heart change we got to have. I'm not sure if these Republicans that I see around, do they really have the heart for that, to promote that type of heart change? That's when I'll believe woke is dead.
All right, here's where we disagree then, because your part about the heart change makes perfect sense if you think the woke people believe they're nonsense. Because people were actually racist in 1960, and they had to be convinced otherwise. And so there was a segment of the population that obviously they needed a real heart change. And what I would tell you here is most people aren't actually woke. They're scared of telling you what they actually think, which is why Twitter was so important. And so you had in my view, the vast majority of Americans are not woke. You have some people that would call themselves Democrat. They may have different immigration policies or different tax policies or different political prescriptions. They're not woke. And what happened is the social media companies controlled the narrative so much that it isn't a heart change we need. It's the ability to actually speak our minds and not think that we're absolutely on our own. And that's what Twitter did. So now we look around and we're like, oh, I'm not the insane one. These woke people are the insane ones. And we can all get together, not just on the show, but in your Bible studies, in your friend groups, in the movies, wherever, and say, hey, supporting Trump is not weird. It's actually totally normal. Most people think this. This is why I think the polls are true for the first time in 8 years. That's another reason I think this woke thing's over. People were scared to death to tell you that they were voting for Donald Trump. That's why they undervalued what his performance was going to be in both 2016 and 2020. Suddenly he's ahead in the polls. Why is that? Because people are free to tell the truth. So I think there are very few woke people. It's not a heart change that we need. It was the ability to actually express ourselves and realize we're not alone.
Not bad, TJ. I'm going to let you go. Thank you. You set the table for a marvelous discussion. Good job as always. Hey, before I let you go and we move on to our next guest, making sure you have the fruits and vegetables in your diet is important for maintaining a healthy diet. But it can also be difficult, especially if you're busy. The average person doesn't even eat half of the recommended servings in a day. That's a huge gap in nutrition. And inflation has seriously increased the cost of fruits and vegetables. That's why Balance of Nature provides an on-the-go solution, and they haven't raised their prices for 10 years. Their proprietary blend of 31 fruits and vegetables comes in easy-to-swallow capsules and will give your body so much of the nourishment it needs. Imagine trying to eat 31 different kinds of produce in a single day. Can't do it. Balance of Nature, the fruits and veggies, it does it for you. When you go to balanceofnature.com, you'll get 35% off plus $10 off any additional sets with your first order as a preferred customer by using my promo code FEARLESS. That's limited to 5 sets, but you'll save a ton of money while getting the fruits and vegetables you need in your diet. Make a splash into summer with Balance of Nature supplements. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a preferred customer. Use the promo code FEARLESS to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement. Hurry, this offer is only available while supplies last. Wilfred Reilly, next. Welcome back to Beef. As I walk you through my top 50 media beefs of all time. Yeah, I'm an equal opportunity beefer. It's like, Randy, are you asleep at the wheel? Big lips are in style. I'd love to squash this beef. I mean, I was not real happy at all. I was less than thrilled. I was displeased. And now we have beef. All right, welcome back. Time to bring in Wilfred Reilly, friend of the show, who we don't have on nearly as often as we should. I blame Shemeka Michelle. I tell Shimika virtually every day, hey, where's Wilfred? Where's Wilfred? She's, oh, don't bring him on, Jason. I'll do better than Wilfred. But today, she couldn't stop me. Wilfred, welcome back to the show. Wilfred's got a new book out, Lies My Liberal Teacher Told Me. Wilfred, before I asked you about the woke era being ended, tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, so I mean, thanks for bringing that up. This book is a response to a whole genre of books that have been out there for a couple of years. I mean, there's Lies My Teacher Told Me, the 1619 Project's book. I believe that's a Black History of the United States. There's Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, a Native History of the United States, that old communist Howard Zinn's, A People's History of the United States. All of them have kind of two themes. This is the worst culture the world's ever known, and you're some kind of edgy rebel if you know that. I pretty much say that's BS. All humans did the same things in the past. If anything, the West was the best. And two, there's nothing novel and original about these ideas, Marxism, light, feminism, so on. They're the mainstream now. I look at whether what people are saying from the mainstream in college, in high school, makes sense. Whether we're being lied to now from the left instead of the right, I find out the answer is often yes.
That makes you the perfect person to ask this question, the question we're pondering today. Is the woke era dead, dying, or just hibernating, waiting for its next George Floyd?
I think that we're coming down from the peak, Jason. I mean, I sincerely think that, looking at kind of the consulting side of the business that I do. I mean, and I think this happens. I mean, when you look at the OJ trial, I think that knocked kind of racial sensitivity back for a while. I think the perception of a lot of whites, for that matter, a lot of black business people is, I mean, here's a guy who killed his wife and got away with it. You know, no personal comment, but a lot of people put the lid on that guilt for maybe 10 to 15 years. It's kind of the same thing now as we look at some of the fentanyl revelations about George Floyd. I mean, no one's calling that ideal policing, but I think we now know what happened there. We look at some of the panic about COVID. We shut down for a couple of years. We lowered the national IQ by 2 points. That turned out to be totally unnecessary. Sweden did better against C-19 than almost any other country. So I think a lot of people are looking at this sort of overly empathic BS and saying, well, we really screwed up. We didn't have to do that. But one sentence, the problem is that infrastructure is still there. People, including yourself, but I mean, Chris Rufo, for example, someone I know pretty well, there are people trying to dig this out of the institutions, out of media, out of the universities. But as long as you have the alphabet soup, I mean, departments of DEI, ESG, SEL, new HR, I mean, they're in wait. I mean, they're not going anywhere. So we have to get rid of them, or the next surge will be just as big.
Do you think we have the will, the resolve to dig them out? Or if we just tamp things down on Twitter and if they just lower the temperature on Pride Month, everybody will just say, hey, things are fixed. Let's go back to normal. We don't need to fix it. You can still send your kids off to these $100,000 a year Ivy League schools, let them get indoctrinated with all that stuff. Or do we have that resolve to really do the hard work?
Well, I think that most of these activists are making exactly the strategic assessment that you're talking about, where they think that they're going to calm down for a couple of years, or they think that they're going to switch causes. I mean, you're seeing a lot of the same people that were at the BLM rallies, at the Free Palestine rallies, that they're going to move around for a little bit, move over for a little bit, and people are going to kind of lose track of them. The thing to keep an eye on is the infrastructure. I mean, so the University of Michigan, I'm kind of amused to say, as a University of Illinois man myself, but I mean, has a DEI office that employs, I think, 160 people. These are all six-figure jobs. I mean, people criticize the athletic department, or they criticize the big academic departments. This is much more of, in my opinion, a useless drain. I mean, there aren't enough hate incidents. There aren't enough. There's no reason to have 160 people monitoring interracial dating in Ann Arbor. But that is the structure that's transmitting this into society. I mean, that's something that we've got to be aware of. It's a formal institution.
You've knocked it out of the park because I watched my own university build out its DEI department. It's not as massive as Michigan, but it's all over these higher education institutions. It's at the high school level. There are people in charge of DEI, and it's like, and literally, I just speak bluntly. It's like it's black people in charge of telling white people how to manage Negroes. Basically, that's their job. Don't say this. Don't do that. Oh, it's this day. This rap album has its 20-year anniversary. You need to be respectful of that. And this person, Jacob Floyd or White or whatever his name, Jacob Blake died on this day. I just wonder, with all of these people drawing six-figure salaries all over the country in these educational, high school, college level, heck, probably down to junior high and grade school, you can't fire them all. What are they going to do? I mean, that's what a lot of these guys go to college for, to learn how to tell white people how to behave with black people. They should turn that into a major.
There actually are majors on this. There are majors in multicultural education now and so on. And I mean, I will say the studies fields, they're usually in the top 20, but they aren't in the top 10 majors on campus. That's still, thank God, engineering and criminal justice and all that. So, I mean, there are reasons to send your kid to college. If you want to be a doctor, you have to go to med school. And if you go to Penn State or Florida on a football Saturday, most people really aren't marching around with protest signs trying to free Palestine. So there are two cultures there. But I mean, in terms of what we can do, I think we can fire them all, first of all. I mean, I think that one of the campaigns, both institutions that I mentioned are state universities. So at some level, when you look below the Ivy League at the major ranked institutions, I mean, I teach at K-State. Most of the other big school, UK. I mean, most of these are institutions where state money is 50% of the budget. So when you look at the big campaigns from a Rufo or a Lindsay or whatnot, I mean, a big idea is you pass a bill at the state level that would say, you have to enforce the Civil Rights Act. You can't discriminate against blacks, but you also can't discriminate against whites. In Title IX, you can't discriminate against women, of course, but you also can't discriminate against men. If a couple, quote unquote, makes out after having a few drinks, you can't expel the guy from college after a kangaroo court style hearing. So that entire process, once you pass legislation saying this, vanishes from the campus. So I think you could do that. And it's worth noting that there's not necessarily any impact that would have. I mean, I think Elon Musk illustrated this in the tech space, where he took over Twitter, and you can like or dislike how he's kind of opened the doors of the club there and let everybody in on the right and the left. But one of the things he did do that had no impact was fire 80% of the staff. Marketing, gone. Afuera, that guy in Argentina would say. DEI, afuera. And nothing happened. And I think that's what you'd see in most environments.
Wilfred, thank you for taking the time with us today. I don't know what Shemeka's problem is with you, but she smiles in your face and talks a lot of smack behind your back. But that's your problem to man. It's not mine. Thank you, Wilfred. Guys, I want to talk to you about Sarah Gonzalez and the Blaze Originals team and their work with exposing voter fraud. Sarah and the Blaze Originals team went down to Michigan to take a look to see how the election process in 2020 and 2022 was distorted in Michigan and what's being done to try to prevent that now. She got to, and the Blaze Originals team uncovered a lot of the dirt and now have put together a docuseries, Voter Fraud Exposed, How Elections Can Be Stolen. This is a powerful, powerful documentary. It's something everybody needs to watch before November. Heck, I say we all need to watch it before July or before the end of this week so that you're more educated and have an understanding of what potentially could happen and best steps and best practices to try to prevent what a lot of us think was an unfair 2020 election cycle. If you go to the website, blazeoriginals.com/Whitlock, and use the promo code Voter Fraud, you can get $30 off an annual subscription to Blaze TV. Once you have that subscription to Blaze TV, now you have access to Voter Fraud Exposed, How Elections Get Stolen, and a bunch of other Blaze Originals content that you can only get by being a Blaze TV subscriber. That's blazeoriginals.com/Whitlock, promo code Voter Fraud, $30 off your annual subscription to Blaze TV. Gap, man, you are loaded for bear.
Bye.
You have all the. You've just talked me into Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic. That's who we're looking at. I can't believe it.
With my mug on me. Oh, DD. Oh, what it is? Oh, DD. What it is?
I was not prepared to believe that coming into this conversation, but you've talked me into.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back. Time for the Korean Cosell. Cosell, same question to you that I've asked everyone today. I'm asking everyone today. Is the woke era dead, dying, or just hibernating, waiting for George Floyd 2.0?
I would like to say that it's dying. I don't think it'll ever be dead. Too many disgruntled people out there with student loans they can never pay off that want to take it out on the rest of us fine-working, hard-working, tax-paying Americans. And there's always going to be other people that are just always going to have the philosophy of grievance. Is there going to be another George Floyd? Unfortunately, there is. But I think the bigger question is, how will people react to it? Look, the reality in my view is there's always going to be interactions with police and people of color, as I like to say, that aren't going to end up well. Okay. But statistically, it has been proven it doesn't happen all that often. Certainly not as much as certain people want to state that have a particular agenda. The question then becomes, how do we react to it? Now, Jason, I think you and I will react to it the way we always have, with a fair, balanced, nuanced viewpoint. And we're not going to bust out into any unwanted violence. The question then becomes, do the moderates and the other people that are on the other sphere, how will they react to it? Because in terms of the whole woke movement, I do get the sense people, I don't know if they're fed up, but they've certainly had their fill of it. Like, think about it. We're into June, which is Pride Month, right? Jason, I'll be honest. I really have not seen an over exposure to this whole thing. I kind of know about it. I know the Buffalo Bills did something where they want to start their own football league. You'll see some virtue signaling on social media. Certainly, since I still live in LA and Hollywood, I'll be driving down and a business will have a pride flag, which just makes me shake my head. But I don't feel as though it's as prevalent or as in my face as it has been. But I don't know what that really portends for the future.
I wish I had thought of this when I was talking to TJ Moe. This is how we'll know. And you tell me if I'm setting the bar way too high. But this is how we know that the woke era we'll know it's over. When Derek Chauvin is free from prison. If he gets out on an appeal and people, that to me is the standard. That's my line in the sand, because everybody knows the guy didn't murder George Floyd, and if the woke era is really over, they'll let that guy out of prison.
Jason, you're just asking for more large gatherings and peaceful protests. Jason, can we be honest? Criminal justice reform only refers to certain people. It doesn't refer to the Derek Chauvins of the world. Can we be honest about it, Jason? You are getting a blowtorch to the flame, and you're just no, Jason. Honestly, if that actually happened, I believe that there would be some issues across certain cities across America. That's my view. You asked me what I think. That's what I think.
I got it, but sir, and I know this is an impossible standard, but the Central Park Five got sprung from prison. They didn't get exonerated. People say exonerated, but they didn't get exonerated, but they got sprung from prison. And they participated in I didn't say they raped her, but they participated in the rape of that woman, in beating up that woman, in beating up other people in the park. They got sprung. And so if they can get sprung, why can't Derek Chauvin get sprung when there's more proof that he didn't murder George Floyd?
Jason, I don't disagree with any of that, but here's the reality. If you look at who has infiltrated the politics, from the local mayors, from the district attorneys to the judges, they all have a political and social bent, and they all seem to be funded by this guy that's not also mysterious. And I think people know who I'm referring to. So now they are embedded. So this whole thought process and philosophical thought process, you can't stop it. There is no common sense anymore. When you have people committing murders or physical violence who are now getting probation, and they're fighting more for the criminals than they are for the law-abiding citizens, Jason, that's not by accident. Nothing is by accident or by random or chance. These people were placed in a position, very calculated. We all let it happen. And that's why I think, again, everyone talks about the presidential election. I believe now more than ever, the local elections, you always hear it. It's more important to you as an individual. When I look at this and you examine what is happening in cities like Oakland/San Francisco, Chicago, Baltimore, Philadelphia, I hate to say it, Los Angeles, all of these people have a certain profile, and they all have a political and social philosophy.
Let me replay something I played at the top of the show. Did you see Derek Wolfe, former NFL defensive tackle?
I saw some of that, yes.
I want to play the clip just to refresh your memory. And this is, I have to admit, a sign of progress. I know he's out of the NFL, retired or whatever, but I don't think 3-4 years ago, any white guy that's got any public standing would say the kind of things that he's saying. But it is a sign of progress. Let's play the clip again.
So the NFL, with that whole kneeling shit, and the BLM, communist bullshit, Marxism farce that was going on there, the whole kneeling thing made them lose all this money.
Right.
People who are like patriots and shit are like, yes, I'm not watching it.
Yeah.
So what do? They go woke.
Right.
Completely woke. During that George Floyd shit, they made us sit in an auditorium, and the victimization from guys, I mean, these guys were telling all their stories about how scared of the cops they were. I'm like, bro.
How woke was the locker rooms?
It got bad in Baltimore. It got real bad.
That's a woke ass city.
It was so woke. The problem is that the guys that are actually like on free thinkers and on the right, they're afraid to say anything because they're scared. But me, I don't give a fuck you. I don't care. I'm going to say what I believe, and I'm going to be who I am. I'm not going to hide and let you just talk shit.
The only problem I have with Derek Wolfe is, how does he say all that and not do it here on Fearless? I love the Hodge twins. I get it.
I love the Hodge.
He probably feels more comfortable cussing with the Hodge twins than he will with me. But Derek, man, this should have been the home to say that kind of stuff. And I know the Hodge twins are right there with me, but that was the only thing I was a little upset about. But I love that rant.
You know what? Shout out to the Hodge twins, Keith and Kevin. They're making all kinds of gains. Yeah, I saw them in concert one time. They were hilarious. But here's the thing that's really interesting about that. He said it when he's retired, though, and that is the issue. I don't think he was in a position to say it when much of that locker room has a certain political or social philosophy. I love that interview. I watched parts of it. I hope that more players in the future, while they are playing, will speak out, but I don't think that they're in a position to. I am a realist. As an active player, I don't know if I'd even advise Derek Wolfe or the like to be saying that type of stuff. I'm just being honest with you on that. And by the way, Derek, I want you to know, we also have editing equipment too. You can say all the F-bombs you want. We here at Fearless, we could also bleep that out too. Just want to let you know, Derek.
So the other interesting thing, what do you think of like LaShawn McCoy and Emmanuel Acho? They've been pretty consistent with their comments in support of Caitlin Clark and calling out Angel Reese. I think that's kind of new. It's like they are telling Black Twitter, hey, do what you want to do, but I'm going to stand 10 toes down on this truth about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. I find that significant.
Well, isn't Emmanuel Acho, though, a tether? I mean, those vaunted tethers that, oh, God. I mean, they're segregating amongst themselves. Okay, but anyway, here's what I think, and I've noticed this trend, and this has been actually proven in a lot of polls. Jason, the most loyal voting demographic in America to the Democratic Party by far, because it's like 95, 96% is Black women. You know the one demographic that's actually shifted more than anybody, followed by the Latinos, for the opposite end of the left-hand side? Black men. Black men. And I'm just telling you, Jason, because, look, I have YouTube Premium. Cuts out the commercials, best $9.99 I spent every month, right? So in terms of subscribe to, it starts giving me recommendations. So obviously with the people that I listen to and that I subscribe to, Ock Nation, Brandon Tatum, guys of that ilk, Chaotic Truth, they start giving me other YouTube channels of that ilk. And I'm noticing there's a lot of men who are Black who are now, let's put it this way, they're not Democratic and they're not left-handed. And I'm like, wow. And so I started watching these channels and I subscribe to a lot of them, try to help them out as much as possible. It is very, very difficult to ignore that there is a particular trend that I think scares a lot of people, that more and more Black men right around our age and even younger, like the Cartier family, a group of 4 young brothers, I think they're all in their 20s. I love them. I mean, they are free thinkers and they're not afraid to put it out there. I support them as much as possible. And I'm thinking that really has to scare some people, because they always talk about the young voting bloc, that they are the future, right? And the numbers are going to be strong. And every day they put their guts on the line and say, this is what we think. I have a lot of respect for them. But that trend, I think, Jason, is undeniable.
It's certainly undeniable. And it gives you a tiny bit of hope, but as I told TJ, I think we're in the rope-a-dope era right now. And I think the woke are just trying to, let us get overconfident. I think they're Muhammad Ali.
Jason, I wanted to mention this about the LGBTQ Pride whatever month, right? That, again, I choose to ignore, so it doesn't really bother me that much. But it's really interesting that I remember 30, 40 years ago when we were growing up, coming out of the closet was like this big thing, right? That if you came out of the closet, oh my God, how brave, stunning, or how stupid it was. Think about where we've come in society in 2024 and beyond. You basically now have to have enough guts to come out of the closet to say that I don't support that lifestyle. I find that to be like this whole thing that if any, even a B or C list celebrity, or let's say a non-superstar athlete says, you know what, I'm not really against it, but I'm not for it, and I'm not going to participate in it. I don't like it on my uniform. I'm not going to put it on my lapel. All of a sudden, you become this athlete or this celebrity who gets all this probably unwanted attention because there's going to be scrutiny. But I just find it amazing that now you have to come out of the closet to basically say, well, I'm not really for it. I'm not going to be participating in any rainbow pride parades. And what I think is interesting is that there's no heterosexual person that ever said, well, I'm just basking in my heterosexualness. I mean, just think about like how we are backwards in society, that you are now castigated as a parent of any race, creed, and color, that if you're at the park and all of a sudden there's this freak show going on, that if you tell your little girl, hey, honey, get away from that man waving that dildo like a Luke Skywalker lightsaber. And then all of a sudden, like, people question you. Like, you literally don't have the right to tell your own kids that, look, if people are doing that, I'm going to take you out of school. You're not going to be going to that classroom. I mean, think about it. There's no teacher that has ever lost their job for, or I just wonder, now I have to think about it. Has there ever been a teacher that lost their job for having a heterosexual pride flag in their classroom? I mean, it just boggles the mind where we have come in 2024. But again, to our original point, Jason, I don't see the prevalence or the in-your-face type of thing with this whole month that I did, let's say, 2-3 years ago.
Steve, thank you so much. Great job as always. We're going to let Shemeka Michelle close this thing out. She'll get the final word, and then we'll move on. Shemeka Michelle, next.
Regrets and our decisions, we all want to go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
There should be a firing squad. When this is over, this season's over, and they've blown the Caitlin Clark year one the way they're blowing it.
You're blowing everything we trained for!
Adam Silver should be fired, the head of the NBA.
Maybe if we just break it down.
Kathy Engelbert should be fired, the head of the WNBA.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
Christy Sides, the head coach of the Fever, she should be fired.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
Lynn Dunn, the general manager of the Fever, she should be fired.
You show is ugly.
And the water boy, Bobby Boucher, or whoever the water boy, fire them all.
And that's what I call high-quality H2O.
Oh! All right, welcome back. Shemeka Michelle, the First Lady of the Fearless Army, gets final say today. Shemeka is woke, dead, dying, or just hibernating?
Well, I would have said dying until I heard you say hibernating. And I think you may have a point there. I definitely don't think it's dead, simply because they're now calling the city that I live in the queer city, which has really made me angry. I feel like I need to blast Reclaim the Rainbow and drive downtown. But I do think people are tiring of the woke when it comes to the LGBTQ plus IA, the alphabet mafia. I think people are really tired of that. So when it comes to the race aspect, I'm not sure yet, but I definitely think people have had enough with the alphabet mafia.
I don't know if you caught it, but Wilfred earlier made the point that like people have figured out that George Floyd and Derek Chauvin was an overreaction, that fentanyl definitely played a major role in that. I didn't push back super strong because, one, I think white people have figured that out, but black people believe George Floyd was strangled to death, shot 40 times in the back, then strangled. His grandchildren were also beaten and nearly lynched. I just don't, black people aren't dealing with, George Floyd is Emmett Till 2.0 for most black people.
Yeah, what I did catch, Jason, was you throwing a little shade between me and another man that I love. But I agree with you. I do think white people have said, hey, wait a minute, we maybe went a little bit too far when it comes to George Floyd when we look at everything in its entirety. Black people, not so much. They could not care less what he had in his system, what he did prior to laying on the ground, even the fact that he begged to get out of the car. They don't care about that. All they know is they saw this white man with his knee on George's neck, as they say, not even in a hole that most people, most police officers are used to. They don't care about that. That's all they saw. He was killed. He was murdered. And that's the end of that. So I don't think black people are tired of the whole George Floyd thing. If we were, I think black people would be focused more on the crime that happens in the community the most, which is black on black. I think we would put our focus and our efforts and our marches and our protests and our we won't stand for this to that, because that's what's actually having the most horrible effect on the community. I don't think they're tired, though. I think they're waiting for the next one. They're going to be looking at every piece of evidence that comes out. There was just something recently that came out, but I think he actually shot at someone, so it didn't really take off the way people were hoping that it would. But I think they're waiting for the next George Floyd moment. And we don't have Aunt Jemima, we don't have Uncle Ben's on the box anymore, but anything that even looks like that, get ready to come under fire because it will happen.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think George Floyd is so important to a great swath of Black America because we're so committed to the victim narrative that George Floyd is like our smoking gun, our piece of evidence that, yes, we are victims and we're oppressed and white supremacy still exists. That's why they can't let go of George Floyd, because it's hard to point to anything else. It's like white folks, for the most part, unless they're trying to draw Twitter traction, they don't use the N-word. White folks, the smart ones I'm just sorry, but we keep, and I got to quit apologizing, but white folks, for the most part, are trying to avoid any disagreements with Black people to the point of like, hey, I'm not even going to engage because who knows which direction it'll go. And so they don't use the N-word. They try to avoid disagreements and engagement. And so we just don't have a lot of proof of racism. And so we hold on to George Floyd as the big smoking gun. That's the, I got you. That's the bloody glove. George Floyd is the bloody glove. And it's a tool that, like, Black people that have moved out of into the suburbs or away from other Black people, they can then use George Floyd to gain power at work. They can argue to their bosses and everybody, you got to have me because if I'm not here, you may strangle some Negro when we're not looking. And I mean, literally. And so you got to give me a DEI job because you don't want to be the next Derek Chauvin. And so it's a power tool and it's a justification for the victim narrative.
Yeah, I think if you're semi-sane, it is a justification for the victim narrative because there are so many Black people that are just nuts that they don't even need it to be as extreme as George Floyd. They live such a victim mentality lifestyle that they look for anything. So for the semi-sane, yes, George Floyd gives them a good out or a good excuse or reason to kind of grab hold to power. But for some of them, we've seen the videos, oh, she complimented my hair. That's a microaggression and we're so oppressed. And for those nutcases, George Floyd is they don't even need that because they see victimhood in every single thing that they do. Anytime a white person is just in their presence, they're a victim. The white person is breathing too much air. Their nose is a little bit longer. And so they're taking the oxygen and look at us. My nose is too. I mean, they will find any reason to be a victim. But for the semi-sane, you're right. George Floyd makes them look not as crazy for using the race card.
Shemeka, I'm going to say something that I wasn't planning to say, and I'm not even 1,000% sure it connects, but it does. The George Floyd thing, I've told you this privately, and I want you to react publicly this time, that the George Floyd thing and just the commitment to that narrative has made me say, what else have they lied to us about? And it's made me say, it's legitimately made me say, 1955, Emmett Till, I was not alive. I'm relying on other people to tell me what happened. I wonder if there's another side to that story. And part of the other side to that story is that there were Black people involved with hunting down and killing Emmett Till. That's That's just facts, and it's never talked about. And so it makes me just like, what else have they left out of the Emmett Till story?
My public reaction is, I don't know what Jason's talking about here. Because I ain't getting canceled. No, I'm just kidding. But, I think that we have to say that can be a true statement because we're watching them in real time change the narrative. So as harsh as it may seem, as much blowback as you may get for saying that, because of course we have to believe every negative thing that has come from history, as much blowback as you'll get, we have to say, but look at what we're watching now. Look at what we're witnessing now. It is possible that something may not have been what they said it was. And so, yeah, it sounds harsh. Yes, it sounds like you're going to be in trouble. Make sure you send those emails to Jason and those DMs and mean comments to Jason. But I mean, it's just a fact that we have to admit, as harsh as it sounds.
Shemeka, thank you so much. Appreciate you as always. We'll play some tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on the corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom.